Today is World Mental Health Day, and October is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Which should be all year, really, if you think about it.
All
we should
the time.
always be aware of our mental health, as it's so important.
Well, a lot of traditions say if you get in a habit for a month, then it does extend to the entire year.
That's a good point,
Just remember it well. I'd like to welcome our friend Mirabelle back to the studio. It's been way too long, though. I was thinking it's probably a year and a half since you've been in here.
It
isn't
has, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well,
morning.
welcome. So you do several things. Can you tell us what are your various titles? You're a yoga instructor and a counselor of sorts, and what do you do?
I help people find...
You help people.
I help people to empower themselves with clarity, vitality, and contentment.
I love
That's
that.
a good job description.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so what are we going to discuss today for World Mental Health Day?
Well, I wanted to sort of invite us into thinking about how we perceive mental health, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of times when people are talking about mental health, they're talking about anxiety and depression and things like that. So I want to invite all of us listening to reframe mental health as the highest expression of our mind, as clarity, as being able to have a perception that can hold many points of view while still respecting our own point of view and that of others.
Right.
So a big, broad vision and perspective of mental health. That's not limited to mental health as disease, because when we think mental health, anxiety, depression, we're thinking of mental disease, not mental health.
Right.
But we're calling it mental health.
We're thinking of the negatives instead of the positives, right? And
Which
we
kind
were
of
just
kills it right there, right?
and off air, we were just talking about how in the medical profession, often we don't go seek help until we're physically ill, right? Or you don't go to a mechanic until your car's broken down. And sometimes with mental health, we don't think about it until we're in a state of, like you said, depression or anxiety, until it's hit the negative. So how can we reframe that and think positively about mental health? Or what are some ways that we can live a stress-free life, I suppose?
Yeah, and what should we look for in ourselves that could lead to bad mental health?
Yeah, so the first thing to look for is the body's response. Your body keeps score of everything that you're experiencing. Right now, I'm feeling the coolness of the air conditioning.
Right.
My ears
Isn't
are
it
picking up.
lovely?
It is.
I love it personally.
I don't mind it today.
So at every moment, you can track your body's response to any stimulus, whether it's what you're saying, the laugh, the tone of your laugh. My
Sure.
body is responding to that. And if I can feel into my internal landscape, my body's always giving me biofeedback. So as soon as if you say something and I feel a kind of a tension or a contraction in my body, I know that there's a stress response being activated. And
Right.
that's physiological. That's an immediate marker to say something is not going okay. How can I shift right now?
Right.
Awareness is the key. What we do usually is like, oh my God, I don't want to feel that. I'm just going to have another coffee. I'm going to vape. I'm just going to distract myself
Right.
to cope. And I really want to say, why are we talking about coping with stress? It was setting the benchmark so low. We should talk about using stress as a catalyst to uncover our genius.
No, I get it, but
So
Mirabelle,
stress
listen.
can actually be a good thing because it's an indicator of what's going on in your body, and then you're able to either stop it in its tracks or at least be aware. I guess awareness, like you just said, is the most important thing, or it's the first indicator of
100%.
what's happening.
Well, let me throw something into that, though, because I think a lot of us are aware at times that something is wrong, at a basic level. And then you start to think about it more and you realize it leads to things that have probably happened in the past couple of days or whatever. And then you can point to that, but then that leads to something else. And you go down rabbit trails and you're thinking about everything. But also, if you're tired, Mirabelle, some days you just got to get through the job. Because that's the modern world.
Or the
if
day,
I got to drink the coffee
yeah.
or whatever to caffeine, but I'm just saying how people think and how I think too.
No judgment. I love that you said
no,
that.
I know, but that's an important thing, though. I know it's not doing my mental health good because it's like if you're already tired and then you bring caffeine into your system and then you have that crash on top of being tired,
Well,
you're really asking for it.
I think that's where the saying "it's okay to not be okay"
Right,
kind of comes
yeah,
from. Is that we all, every day isn't good, even for the most well-balanced individuals that have, focus on mental health 24/7, we're all going to have not okay days.
Yeah, and that's part of the invitation to be humble, because if you're always feeling amazing, you're not going to be able to connect necessarily with people that are feeling differently from you. So in the design of why these emotions exist, there's beauty in all of it. And we can say, I was saying yesterday on an online training I was doing, I said we were sort of breathing and sending energy towards people that are in the hurricane. It was for a company that's in the Caribbean, right? And I said, we can say, I feel relieved that the hurricane is not affecting me, but I also feel concerned for the people being affected for the hurricane. Opposite emotions can be present together. And when we talk about positive and negative, it's like we often deny things. We're like, I gotta be positive all the time. And it's not possible. How can I be integrative? How can I acknowledge the full spectrum of my human experience? Because I'm human, and how human of me to feel sad, and how human of me to feel guilty.
How can you experience the highs if you've never experienced the lows, right?
Exactly.
There has to be a balance.
Yeah.
Well, and also different personality types too. I got that as you were talking there, because like if somebody is more of an empath, for example, and somebody else might not be, it's no judgment either way. It's just who you are. But that's going to involve different things for your mental health too.
Absolutely.
How to take care of yourself. Particularly for someone like me, I'm definitely an empath.
Me too.
And this year, watching world events after having lived in certain parts of the world, I feel directly so much more for like the war in the Middle East that's going on right now than what other people might. And it's no judgment, but it's like some people look at me sometimes, why do you feel like that? Well, partly my personality, partly I lived there. Partly, there's a lot of factors, but how you deal with that as far as mental health, then I think would be different too.
Absolutely. It's a lot, and it's nuanced, and it's hard to talk about it in a short time on a show.
Right, exactly.
But absolutely, different people need different things.
Yeah,
and
but we
that's
all
the
need
job.
sleep.
Oh, we all need sleep.
That
Yeah,
we can all
definitely.
agree on.
Terry especially, she tells us all the time. What other practical
Tim,
tips?
sorry, may I interrupt you?
Yeah.
There's a quote that I want to share, in terms of what you shared about, Middle East and all of those things.
Uh-huh.
So it's a story, it's an anecdote about the Dalai Lama, and he's always looking very zen and peaceful and compassionate. So there was this one reporter that was very kind of straightforward and a bit aggressive, and he said, what do you think of yourself? Like just sitting here being zen while there's wars raging, while there are people being abused, where there's all this suffering going on. Like, don't you think that you should feel the pain of people?
Youch.
And the Dalai Lama, I mean, it's a valid question.
Yeah, it is.
And
It's also kind of a harsh question to ask the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, but I love his audacity, right? And his honesty, because maybe other people were thinking that
So
and didn't
this was to the
ask.
Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely.
I
And
missed that
how
part.
did he respond?
So he laughed, he smiled, and he said, I feel it all,
Of course.
but
yeah.
the peace is more. And that I heard that many years ago, and that really shifted things for me, because it doesn't mean you don't feel, but that you practice tuning into coherence, what we call physiologically bringing the nervous system into balance. You practice, whether it's through God or breathing or whatever works for you, right? Different things for different folks, but you tune into that frequency, the highest frequency of health, of vitality, of love. And then you can feel the rest, but it doesn't derail you so much.
Well, right, because what that does then is somebody like him that does care, but might not show it emotionally as much, can actually make better decisions about how to deal with it or what kind of actions
or
he should
when you're
take.
in his presence, you also feel that calm state.
Or that,
because
then it
he's
spreads.
exuding that out into the world, which is what we need, is that calm presence.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to misquote it, my apologies, but it's from Rumi, and it's so roughly something like beyond the realm of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field and I'll meet you there.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the way sometimes we need to think about it. We're not always going to see eye to eye with other people, but we can still find a common ground to be meeting people with.
Yeah, because you can translate your experience to anybody else. It's all translatable. You can
Yeah.
find a way to relate because we all experience the same things as humans. So anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
And, for just expressing your thoughts with mental health, and it's a new way to look at it, that we can look at mental health as a positive thing.
Yeah.
And a way to check in with ourselves instead of always something that's talked about with a stigma or negativity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's an ongoing discussion too, so it's good to just even vent sometimes and talk about it, Yeah.
And we're here to listen. If you
Yeah.
ever want to send us a WhatsApp, 3262999.
In fact, we would like to hear from more people more often, because often we run into people and we're like, we listen to, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, well, I don't know you. So it's like two-way thing.
I wanna
talk to
know
us.
you,
Call us
yeah.
and let's hear.
And a lot of your messages you guys send out are really, people think things, but when they say them, it's really nice to hear too. So Or even if it's negative, send it our way too.
Yeah,
we're happy to take it all.
Right. 3262999, by the way, is our WhatsApp. And Mirabelle had one more thing here.
I want to leave you with a question to think
Okay.
about today. And that is from one of my friends and teachers, Molly. And it says, how do I build a life, or how do I live a life that I don't need to recover from?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
it
want to
was-
leave our listeners today with that thought.